I'm curious as to how you came up with the name, The Fun Time Podcast.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, you are actually the first person on camera to ask us this question, which I find really entertaining. I guess I have to answer this question since I am the one who came up with this
is on you.
name. So when John asked me, like, what should we call our podcast? My first thought was, I want the initials of our podcast to be FTP, because as the leftist that I am, fuck the fucking police. So
And my reaction to that was, I don't stand behind this message, but I'm willing to make it like a subversive thing that you can know about, but isn't like blatantly out there, because that's not really how I want to represent our brand to the world. It's
also just really funny because when I said FTP, John's first response was file transfer protocol.
Being the nerd that I am, yeah.
That's classic right there.
So we immediately realized, it's like we can get creative with this. We can, have it mean many different things.
And so in my brain, I was like, okay, well, what would be a really good name that would fit FTP? And literally the first thing that came to mind was like fun time program.
Yeah.
And then we looked it up and it happened to be available. And we're like, well, shit, this works.
So I've had this idea for a podcast going back about as long as I've been excited about UBI and Andrew Yang's ideas. Once I started thinking about, ways that we can change our world. And the first thing that came to my mind was the challenge that arises after UBI becomes the norm. And that challenge to me is, what do people do with their time when you free them from wage slavery? Mm-hmm. And so the question is, how do people find purpose in life if their purpose isn't coming from being forced to go to a 9-to-5 job, being forced to work at McDonald's or Walmart or whatever it is that as Andrew Yang points out in his book is normal. That is the normal. Like, we live in this bubble where we think that most people go to college and then they go on and they find a job that really gives them value in their life. But the reality is, the normal state in this country is that people go to a job that they don't like and they're forced into out of, economic necessity. So when you free people up from that wage slavery, we haven't yet trained people. Our society is not set up to train people for figuring out what they really want to do with their lives. Yeah. Because we're training them to finish high school, hopefully, and then just get, a basic minimum wage job.
Or figure out how they can be productive enough to pay their bills.
Exactly. But then, how to create new things,
right.
How to think about your opportunity, your time in this life is an opportunity to bring new value into the world. And that's really only something that children of means have access to even thinking about doing. And if we're able to free more people up to have access to doing that, how do we teach people to do that? How do we inspire people to do that? So my question became, what is the future of purpose for individuals within society? And I initially actually started a podcast with that name. And I was really into the really intense intellectual discussion and interviewing people and thinking about these really deep issues. And what I learned in having conversations with Vivica here is that it can be a little heavy if that's your only focus. And so what I recognized was that when we were having our conversations, we could do it in a way that was maybe a little bit more accessible to people who aren't as excited about these ideas as I am. You know what I mean? Because if you're only talking to people that are as excited about these ideas as you are, you're missing out on the normal people who are the people that we really need to be reaching. Yeah. And so when we started talking about this name for the program, and also recognizing that we had a lot of other things that we were interested in and wanted to talk about. We talk about intense topics like UBI and race and culture and other things like that in politics. We also talk about fun stuff like sex and relationships and gender identity and things like this.
That was a great episode. Oh my God.
Yes.
I love that episode.
I love that.
Which one?
The one on BDSM.
Amazing.
King. My favorite episode, my personal favorite episode.
And what's been amazing to see is that has been our most watched episode so far. So there's clearly an appetite.
Sex, John.
There's an appetite for lighter, more fun topics. But by doing those topics, we also bring people in for the more intense discussions like UBI and things like that. And so what I recognized in the name is, like, if we can have a name that's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more relaxed, you can kind of bring people into a fun show and then sneak in the more heavy stuff. So it's been really fun having that journey and seeing how that's materialized over the, the course of what is it? 5-6 months now we've been doing this?
4
months? I don't know. August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. Okay. 5 months.
5.
To see how that opportunity has arisen as a result of having a name that's a little bit more fun and having topics that, span a little bit more of a wider interest. So, yeah.
So, John, are you saying it's been a fun time?
It's been
on this program.
Well, it's so funny. We have.
I have the worst jokes. I know this.
The best part is we have become our own biggest fans. So we shoot all these episodes and then we sit down and we actually edit them. And we do the cameras and everything. And we sit there watching them, having the same reactions in the editing booth that we had while we were filming. And it's just made it so much more easy to do as a result of that. So yeah, that's the history behind our name.
So I want to say a couple things here.
Sure.
Number one, the BDSM episode was just so informative. Like what I loved about it was fun and it was informative. And I think that's a very taboo issue, which it doesn't need to be.
Right.
Like sex is just way too taboo when it comes to like talking about it. Right. And I think there's a lot to gain when we do. So I love that. I think that was so valuable and so, like such kudos to both of you because it was super well done. Like super well done. I'm not surprised that it's had a lot of listens.
Right.
I had way too much fun with that episode. Let's be very real. Like I was like, oh, I get an excuse to wear one of my latex dresses. Sold. Like I get to play with like some of my toys on camera. Done. But I completely agree that I think that taboo topics, especially like sex and BDSM and kink in general, are taboo only because we have such terrible sex education in this country and that we are a sexually repressed country. So we have no real outlet to talk about things that everyone wants to talk about. Yeah. Everyone wants to talk about sex. Everyone wants to have sex unless you're asexual. And sometimes that's like iffy here and there. But like for the most part, like it's something that everyone's going to engage in. It's like saying that like we shouldn't ever talk about brushing your teeth. Like people brush their teeth, but it's something that we really we just don't talk about it. And I mean, why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know that I want to get too far on a tangent here because there is another point I want to come back to about something you said, John. But I think like, I was thinking like, if it wasn't for certain outlets or conversations, like you wouldn't even know people have sex, right? Like that's how little we talk about it, and that's so stupid because it's so much a part of being human, right? Like that's just such a natural thing. And that kind of ties into the podcast a little bit, Rethinking Humanity. What are we valuing as a society and as humanity? We're not valuing something that's so natural and so human for us. And that's one example of things that we're squelching, we're, quieting, we're making taboo that are like ultimately not helping us at the end, And that part to me is just, it's frustrating, and there are definitely countries that are doing better with that. So I like that. But I think that's one of the biggest things for me as a passion point for doing the podcast is like, can we rip that shit apart, please? Because we don't need this. This is not helping.
Right. Yes. Well, this is why I was so excited when I came across your podcast and your work is it, I've had the same reaction to getting involved in Andrew Yang's ideas and how he's constantly talking about how we need to think about better ways to organize our society and also just structure how we engage with each other and support each other. And when you start thinking in that capacity, you start thinking about rethinking humanity, you realize how that way of thinking spreads into every facet of your life. And it's like, here we are talking about sex. And do you think Andrew Yang, when he started his campaign, ever thought that one of the influences that he would have was to get people to have a healthier conversation around sex? It's like, but it follows from the philosophy of how do we organize ourselves in a better way? And that's so cool to see other people having that same kind of experience with these ideas. I love that.
Absolutely. Thanks for checking out this clip from our show.
To watch more clips or full episodes, click on our profile below.
If you want to stay up to date on all of our new episodes and videos, click subscribe.
And if you have any ideas for future guests or topics that you would like to see us cover on the show,
leave us a message in the comments or connect with us on any of our social media channels at Funtime Program.
Or on our website at funtimeprogram.com.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.